Story number 1. This story takes place during my first year of elementary school in Brownsville, Texas, a location with a tumultuous history. In my classroom, our teacher was having each student take turns reading a paragraph aloud. Being one of the larger kids, I occupied a seat at the back of the class. I read my paragraph, and the teacher applauded my effort with a "well done." However, when I cast my gaze to the left, I was met with the sight of a white woman in a pink dress, her eyes fixed on me. I was taken aback, and a chill of fear coursed through me. The school promptly contacted my mother to pick me up. My mother then brought me to the home of my great-grandmother, who hailed from San Luis Potosí, Mexico. She possessed a wealth of wisdom and had a soothing presence. She spoke to me, offering reassurance, advising me not to be frightened, and explaining that these spirits or entities were aware of my ability to perceive them and were seeking my assistance. It appeared that there was some familial connection to these supernatural beings. At the time, I didn't give much thought to these matters. My prior experiences mainly involved episodes of sleep paralysis and hearing peculiar buzzing noises while in that state. These experiences often resulted in my awakening, only to drift back to sleep immediately. However, none of these episodes held a candle to the one I'm about to recount. At a certain point, I began to explore the potential use of mushrooms for spiritual growth and healing. It was my girlfriend's first experience with them, and we were at her house. Our trip was remarkable, but during the come-down, we found ourselves in her room. She mentioned the presence of a ghost, and I, in jest, decided to investigate. I said, "All right, ghost. Grandma told me I have powers. I want to test them out. If you can communicate with me, please provide a sign." To my astonishment, the TV switched on. Typically, my girlfriend used her phone to operate the TV, so I initially regarded it as mere coincidence. However, I sought a more substantial indication. I requested a clearer sign, and the TV began repeatedly turning on and off. At this point, my conviction solidified, though my girlfriend was clearly agitated. I then inquired about the presence. Was it man or woman? My girlfriend's TV featured streaming apps, and this entity managed to the screen. It turned white, then displayed static, and finally revealed an image of a woman. I was simultaneously amazed and respectful. I stated, "You possess the power to move on and be where you need to be. Thank you." My girlfriend turned off the TV, and we both found ourselves in a state of shock. Some time passed, and we decided to unwind by sharing a joint. As a police officer happened to walk by, my girlfriend mentioned the possibility of them visiting her house. I reassured her by saying, no one is going to harm us here." Suddenly, music began playing on my phone, which was resting on the counter. We both looked at each other in astonishment. I then asked, "Are you still here? Give me a sign." Instantaneously, the TV powered on and the music altered. At that moment, I was wholly convinced, yet I remained pondering the deeper significance of these events. Story number 2. The initial incident took place in late 2021 during the midst of the pandemic. Back then, I was residing in an incredibly small house, which was the best I could manage as a university student. My room was so cramped that it could hardly accommodate a bed and a closet. Positioned on the ground floor, it was in close proximity to the front door of the house, granting me the ability to hear virtually everything occurring outside. On a particular evening, I found myself home alone, partaking in my usual routine of smoking a cigarette and reading manga in bed. Suddenly, an unsettling silence enveloped the surroundings, an eerie hush that even drowned out the sounds of the wind beyond the window. Though I found it peculiar, I attributed it to fatigue and concluded it was time to retire for the night. Stepping out of bed, I extinguished the light and turned around. To my astonishment, there was an individual seated on my bed, precisely where I had been moments earlier. This person was a woman wearing a sundress and sporting a paper bag as a makeshift mask over her head. Her gaze was not directed at me, nor did she acknowledge my presence. Instead, she sat there, facing forward, resembling a mannequin. Naturally, my response was to hastily illuminate the room, and, unsurprisingly, she vanished. Unsurprisingly, I had a fitful night's sleep. Occasionally, when I attempt to rest, regardless of my location, an unnatural silence descends, and she materializes. She consistently fails to acknowledge me or engage with me in any way, almost as if she is oblivious to my existence. Her manifestations vary. Sometimes she stands in a corner, facing the wall. At other times, she occupies a chair or even perches at the foot of my bed, her gaze locked forward. The instant I rub my eyes, alter my line of sight, activate the flashlight on my phone, or switch on a light, she evaporates. The identity, purpose, and intentions of this entity are shrouded in mystery. For the sake of understanding, I've taken to referring to her as Baghead. She appears innocuous, yet the intense fear I experience during her appearances perplexes me. It is a sensation unlike any other I have encountered. In my lifetime, I've confronted terrifying situations, including a close encounter with a stalking tiger on my last trip to Bangladesh. However, none of those experiences induced the same level of fear as the visits from Baghead. These encounters are distinct from sleep paralysis, as I remain fully conscious and capable of movement. Additionally, I've been free from any substances for the past month. The most recent visit occurred approximately a week ago, while I was responding to messages on my phone. Once again, I was ensnared by silence, as if enveloped in a vacuum. I raised my gaze only to find Baghead perched on my bed, her focus directed towards the wall. A reflexive chill surged through my veins, and I promptly activated the highest brightness setting on my phone to illuminate the room. As anticipated, she dissipated. Nevertheless, I cannot shake the premonition that one fateful night she will reappear and finally turn to face me, unveiling what concealed beneath the bag. Merely contemplating this possibility sends a shiver down my spine. It has now reached a point where complete silence triggers intense anxiety as I perpetually dread her return. Story number 3.
To begin with, I'm a 23-year-old residing in Colombia. My uncle realized his dream of building a home on a vast piece of land that, around 150 years ago, formed part of a sprawling farm known as the haciendas. In the past, these lands bore witness to horrifying crimes, where met the gallows, deserters faced firing squads, and unfortunate peasant women endured unspeakable atrocities. Rumor has it that there once stood a tree on my uncle's property, employed for executions during the hacienda era. My uncle has 2 beloved daughters. During their first year in the new house, unsettling events began to unfold for my older cousin. She recounted nightmares involving a mysterious, shadowy figure relentlessly attacking her. Upon waking, she'd find unexplained marks on her arms and a profound sense of fear. These dreams grew increasingly vivid over time, culminating in a night when she swore she awoke to the presence of a sinister man standing over her. Though she couldn't see him, she keenly sensed his malevolence, and she subsequently lost consciousness. Her suffering escalated, waking up with bruises and cuts, tormented by an evil force. Desperation led to the summoning of a priest to perform an exorcism. During the ritual, my cousin expelled what seemed like sand and had no recollection of the event. According to my uncle and my other cousin, she spoke in an otherworldly voice during the exorcism, and her room was marked by an enduring curse. Whenever we visited, my siblings and I were required to sleep in that room, an unsettling experience indeed. At precisely 3 o'clock in the morning, we'd hear footsteps outside the room, and the bathroom door would mysteriously swing open despite closed windows. One night, I awoke inexplicably, turned to find my cousin's face, expressionless and blank. I was startled, wondering why she was there. The entity then silently rose from my bed and left, leaving me in no doubt that it wasn't my cousin. Bizarre occurrences weren't confined to our household alone. The neighboring houses and streets in this quaint village were rife with strange phenomena. Throughout the entire complex, encompassing 30 plots on the former farm, encounters with witches, apparitions of deceased children, and more were unsettlingly common. It was undeniably an eerie place,